Imagine waking up in a world ruled by fear, a land where entire armies trembled before a single man. Every morning the same sound echoed through the valley. Heavy footsteps, metal scraping against stone, a giant emerging from the shadows. For 40 days, Israel watched the same terrifying scene repeat again and again. The giant would walk forward alone, massive, unstoppable. His armor glowed beneath the burning sun. His spear looked large enough to destroy entire walls, and his voice thundered across the battlefield like a storm. His name was Goliath, and nobody dared challenge him. The soldiers of Israel had seen battles before. They understood war. They understood bloodshed. But this was different. This felt hopeless. Goliath was not simply larger than ordinary men. He looked almost impossible, a living weapon built for destruction. Every time he shouted his challenge, fear spread deeper through the camp. Even King Saul, the ruler of Israel, remained frozen by uncertainty. The giant demanded only one thing: send me a man to fight, one warrior, one battle, one outcome that would decide everything. If Goliath won, Israel would become servants. If Israel somehow won, the Philistines would surrender. But everyone already believed they knew the ending. Nobody could defeat the giant. Nobody. Every sunrise brought more tension. Every sunset brought more humiliation. The soldiers avoided looking toward the valley. Conversations became quieter. Hope slowly disappeared. And then, far from the battlefield, a young shepherd prepared for an ordinary day. His name was David. He was not famous, not powerful, not respected as a warrior. He spent most of his time protecting sheep across lonely hills and wilderness. While soldiers trained for war, David learned survival in silence. He understood storms, wild animals, cold nights, danger hidden in darkness. But no one looking at him would imagine he was about to change history forever. One morning, David's father handed him supplies: bread, grain, food for his older brothers serving in Saul's army. The mission sounded simple: travel to the battlefield, deliver the supplies, return home safely. David began the journey without knowing he was walking toward destiny itself. The closer he moved toward the battlefield, the louder the sounds became. Soldiers shouting, weapons clashing, animals moving through camps, smoke rising into the sky. Then he arrived. Thousands of soldiers covered the hillsides. War tents stretched endlessly across the landscape. Armor reflected the sunlight. The atmosphere felt heavy. Fear hung in the air like smoke. David greeted his brothers and delivered the supplies. But before he could leave, something interrupted the camp once again. A thunderous voice echoed through the valley. Goliath had returned. The giant stepped forward slowly, almost enjoying the fear spreading through Israel. Every movement felt deliberate. Every word carried arrogance. He mocked the army openly. He mocked their king. He mocked their God. And once again, nobody answered him. David watched in confusion. The soldiers lowered their heads. Some stepped backward. Others refused to even look toward the valley. David could not understand what he was seeing. Why was everyone afraid of one man? Why was nobody willing to stand and fight? His brothers quickly tried to silence him. They accused him of arrogance, of pride, of not understanding the danger. But David kept asking questions. Who is this giant? Why does everyone allow him to speak this way? Word of David's questions spread quickly through the camp. Eventually, the story reached King Saul. A shepherd boy was talking about fighting Goliath. At first, it sounded ridiculous. Still, Saul ordered the boy to be brought before him. Inside the royal tent, David finally stood face to face with the king of Israel. Saul looked exhausted. 40 days of fear had drained confidence from the entire army. Then he looked at David. Young, small, completely unprepared for battle. Saul immediately rejected the idea. You cannot fight this giant. You are only a boy. He has been a warrior his entire life. But David did not back down. Instead, he began telling Saul about the wilderness, about protecting sheep from predators, about the lion that attacked his flock, about the bear that came in the night. David explained how he fought them both and survived, not because he was the strongest, but because he believed God protected him. The same God who helped him survive before would help him again. Saul listened carefully. The shepherd boy standing before him should have looked terrified. Instead, David looked calm, certain, focused. Eventually, Saul gave permission. But before David entered battle, Saul tried to help him survive. Servants brought royal armor, heavy bronze plates, a massive helmet, a sword designed for trained warriors. They placed the armor onto David piece by piece. But something immediately became obvious. The armor did not belong to him. David could barely move. The weight slowed him down. The sword felt unnatural in his hands. He looked less like a warrior and more like a child trapped inside someone else's identity. Then David removed everything. The armor, the sword, the helmet. He chose to walk into battle exactly as he was. A shepherd, nothing more, nothing less. Armed only with a sling, a shepherd's staff, and faith, David walked away from the camp. The soldiers watched silently. Some pitied him. Others believed they were watching a boy walk toward death. The valley stretched before him. Dust moved across the ground, and in the distance stood Goliath. Waiting, David stopped beside a small stream. He knelt beside the water and searched carefully among the stones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 smooth stones. Simple, small, ordinary. He placed them inside his pouch and continued walking. The battlefield became silent. Two armies watched the same impossible moment unfold. On one side stood the greatest warrior the Philistines had ever known. On the other stood a shepherd boy carrying no armor at all. Then Goliath saw him. For a moment, the giant simply stared. Then he laughed. The sound echoed across the valley. Was this some kind of joke? Had Israel truly sent a child to fight? Goliath mocked David openly, threatened him, humiliated him. The Philistine army laughed with confidence. Even many Israelites struggled to watch. But David continued moving forward, step after step, without hesitation, without fear controlling him. Then David spoke. His voice carried across the valley. "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the Lord." The atmosphere changed instantly. The giant's amusement disappeared. Anger replaced it. Goliath charged forward. The ground shook beneath his weight. His armor thundered as he moved. The giant expected the shepherd to run. Instead, David ran toward him, toward the danger, toward the impossible. David reached into his pouch, pulled out a stone, placed it into the sling. The sling began spinning faster and faster. The armies watched in complete silence. Everything seemed to slow down. The giant approached. David focused. Then he released the stone. It cut through the air with terrifying speed, straight toward the giant. Goliath realized too late. The stone struck directly into his forehead. The impact stopped him immediately. The giant froze. Shock filled his expression. For the first time in 40 days, the valley became completely silent. Then Goliath began falling. Slowly at first, then all at once. The massive warrior crashed into the ground with enormous force. Dust exploded across the battlefield. The earth trembled beneath the impact. And suddenly the impossible had happened. The giant was defeated. A shepherd boy had done what entire armies believed could never be done. For one moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Nobody understood what they had just witnessed. Then fear spread through the Philistine army. Their champion was gone. Their confidence shattered instantly. Meanwhile, the army of Israel erupted with energy. The soldiers who had hidden in fear moments earlier suddenly found courage again. They charged across the battlefield. The Philistines turned and fled. Chaos exploded through the valley. But at the center of it all stood David, still holding the sling, still dressed like a shepherd, still looking nothing like a warrior. That was what made the victory unforgettable. David did not win because he looked powerful. He did not win because he wore armor. He did not win because he carried giant weapons. He won because he believed the battle belonged to God long before the battle even began. As the fighting ended, Israel surrounded David in amazement. Soldiers stared at him with disbelief. The boy who arrived carrying bread had become the hero of the nation. Songs would eventually be written about this moment. Generations would remember the valley where the giant fell. But the true power of the story went deeper than battle. Because everyone understands giants. Not just literal giants. Fear, doubt, failure, pain, obstacles that seem impossible to overcome. That is why this story survived thousands of years. Because people see themselves in the valley. They understand what it feels like to stand before something larger than themselves. And they understand the temptation to run away. Every soldier in Israel saw only the size of the giant. David saw something different. He saw an enemy standing against the God he trusted. That perspective changed everything. The giant believed victory was guaranteed because of his strength. David believed victory was possible because of faith. One trusted armor. The other trusted purpose. One walked into battle with pride. The other walked into battle with conviction. And history remembers which one fell. As the sun began setting across the battlefield, the valley slowly grew quiet again. The dust settled. The giant remained motionless on the ground. And David stood there looking almost unchanged. Still young, still small, still carrying the same sling he used while protecting sheep in lonely fields. Yet everything had changed. The shepherd nobody noticed had become the warrior everyone would remember. Even King Saul looked at David differently now. Because moments like this reveal something important. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward even when fear exists. David almost certainly understood the danger. He understood how impossible the battle looked. But he refused to let fear decide his future. That decision changed the entire nation. And perhaps that is why the story still matters today. Because every generation faces its own giants. Some battles look unwinnable. Some obstacles appear too large. Some fears feel impossible to overcome. But David's story reminds people of something powerful. The size of the obstacle does not determine the outcome. The giant looked unbeatable. Yet one stone changed history forever. As night covered the battlefield, soldiers across Israel continued telling the story. The story of the shepherd. The story of the sling. The story of the impossible victory. And somewhere beyond the celebration, beyond the songs, beyond the battlefield itself, a new future had quietly begun. Because the shepherd boy who defeated Goliath would eventually become king. But on this day, none of that mattered yet. On this day, he was simply the young man who walked toward the impossible when everyone else stood still. And because he walked forward, history changed forever.